Hey everybody, welcome to Southern Gmore Gals. I'm Elizabeth and this is my 5 under 5 Farmhouse Christmas Minis. Welcome everybody to Southern Gmore Gals. For my first DIY, I found this beautiful reindeer. I think this is just a pretty reindeer from the Dollar Tree. He's a little metal reindeer. He actually comes on a little square stand. I don't think I showed that to you very good in the video, but he's already on a little stand. And all I'm going to do, I want to make him over a little bit. So I'm taking a little bit of the ivory chalk paint and I'm just lightly kind of making a little bit of white on him just to kind of break up the metal on him. So I'm just kind of stroking back and forth on him with a big chunky brush, just with a little bit of that chalk paint. And I want to put him in a nice stand with some buffalo plaid check is what I want to do. So this is a medium-sized flower pot from the Dollar Trees. They have the little tiny mini ones, but this is the next size up from that. And I had these left from the spring from another project, so I'm just kind of making this pot over. I have the buffalo plaid vinyl from the Dollar Tree, and you can't just cut a piece and wrap it around here because of the shape of the flower pot. So I found that it was a little bit easier to do this in strips of about 3 rows of the checks and then attaching it to my flower pot. You really could probably slant your cuttings a little bit. I did not do that. I just cut mine straight, tried to match them up some, and then just kind of stuck them on here to my flower pot. And it's not perfect, but they line up as good as I could get it here. And then we're going to go around the top part of a flower pot with some other pieces that I'm going to cut from this vinyl. And once I got all the way around the bottom of the flower pot, I kind of folded that in on the end or on the bottom of the flower pot. And I did go back and use my glue gun and glued that down on the bottom because it didn't really want to stay very good on the bottom without a little bit of glue on it. But for the top rim here, I just cut a few more strips. There's about 3 rows of the squares. And then I'm just folding it down inside the flower pot. And it really sticks very good to this flower pot. I didn't use much glue on it except on the bottom. And once I put the reindeer back inside the pot, I filled the top of it with some Spanish moss, added a couple floral picks from the Dollar Tree, and put a cute red bow on my reindeer. So let me know what you guys think about this one. So we're part of the 5 under 5 Christmas or Winter Tier Tray collaboration today. That's hosted by Missy from Crafty Cove and Emily from Farm Charm Chic. Their guest host this month is Sharon from Grace's Neighbor Sharon. There's also a playlist down in my description box along with all the hostess information. So check out everybody's channels and see what they've made in the challenge today. And I absolutely love this ornament from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use this for my next DIY, and this is so simple. All I'm going to do is have this beautiful greenery there from the Dollar Tree too. Has just a slight shimmer to it, but it's really they're really pretty floral items. Inside the ornament here, I just cut that piece of twine off. It had a little bit of hot glue on it. So I just got that off of there. This has some cotton down on the inside, so it really holds this in place really good. And I wanted to make it look like Christmas fresh trees. So I'm going to make a little Christmas tree inside this ornament. I took 2 of the Jenga blocks, glued those together, and I tried to put them inside and thought that would hold it up good, but it didn't seem like it was going to hold it in place good. So I'm actually going to glue that onto the bottom, and then I'm going to glue one of those on the back too to make this stand up nice and straight and keep it from toppling over once you get the tree inside the bag. So all I'm going to do to make my tree is I'm going to use 1 whole stem of this, and then I've just cut 2 other ones. I cut 2 other pieces or 2 other stems. I cut the pieces off of there, and I'm just going to glue these on with my glue gun to make a little tree, and then I'm going to slide that back inside my little bag. And I don't remember these floral pieces from the Dollar Tree last year. They may have had these, but mine may not have had these because I didn't buy any of these last year. And I think they're really pretty pieces. I think I would have remembered them, but maybe not. I'm really glad that they had these this year. And this turns out to make a really pretty tree. So my plan was to purchase some ornaments from the Dollar Tree and make those over, but for this collaboration, I could only have 5 in this video. So I wanted to have kind of this farmhouse, kind of natural, kind of Christmas tree theme. So all of the items or the DIYs in this video are going to all kind of go together with my next video that's coming out next week. So if you're really liking my DIYs in this one, subscribe and then tune in next week for the other 5 or 6 that are going to kind of go together with the items that I'm doing in this video. Now for my third DIY, we're going to make a little barn and it's going to go inside of a jar. I just wanted to show you from one of my previous videos, I used this thankful sign from the Dollar Tree, and these are the pieces that were on the side that had it attached. So I just popped it apart and I saved these little wooden pieces, and that's what I'm going to make my barn out of. I'm just going to use, it would probably be best to use wood glue, but I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue from a glue gun. I'm just using a little small amount, just enough to hold this together and hold it in place, because I wanted it to dry really quickly. But wood glue would definitely hold this in place really good if you have the time to let that dry. Now to give it a nice barn shape, it needs to have a little bit of roundness, I feel like, on the top part. So these are like the big tongue depressors from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just kind of cutting this off. It's rounded on one side, and then I'm just trying to match that round shape when I cut it for the other side, and I'm just going to hot glue this on here. It's got a little bit of rounded, it's kind of arched at the top when I cut this out. So I'm going to put one of these pieces on both sides of my barn. And if you watched my video last year, I made a barn and a church from a birdhouse. So if you want something a little bit larger, definitely go back and check out that video. But this one's kind of a little mini barn. Looks really cute in the jar here, so stay tuned and see how this turns out. But for the top here, I'm just going to do that same thing. I'm just going to cut out some more pieces to make a roof on the barn. I tried it a couple different ways with like the mini tongue depressors. I didn't really like the way that it turned out. So I like the way that these turned out much better. So I'm going to cut several of these, and when I start putting it on, I put about 3 on one side, and then I went back to the other side and put 3, and then kind of met in the middle. And once all of these are in place, I'm going to use some hammered silver spray paint to spray paint the roof. And then I'm going to use just a red apple barrel paint that I have to paint the barn. And then we'll go back and use some white paint to make the barn doors, or that kind of traditional X looking shape on the front of a barn. So this is turning out really cute. Starting to look like a barn now. Much better, huh? So I'm going to take a little bit of white chalk paint. I'm going to go all the way around to make a square here. And then you'll see me I was using a little piece of cardboard left from the tag to try to give me a little bit of a stencil or an outline to make the X going across there. It was a little tight spot here for me to actually put something down and try to trace it on there, or kind of outline it with just the paintbrush and something laying there. So you'll see me do that, but then it was a little bit thin, so then I'll go back with the paintbrush and make those lines a little bit thicker. After I do that, I'm going to take some of the antique wax and just go over the front of the barn and the top of the roof just a little bit to give it more of a weathered or rustic look. Now you're going to see me here with the lid that I'm using. I used a little bit of that buffalo plaid from the Dollar Tree, the vinyl. I cut out a circle and put it on here, and then I'm going to paint around the rim. But finding the right size jar was a little bit of a challenge. A wide mouth quart jar would work, but it's a little bit tall, a little bit heavy for the tier tray that I'm going to use. And then a regular size jar, the mouth or the lid part was too small for the barn to go in, but I found a pickle jar. It worked perfect. And this is like a deal spear jar. So it wasn't a great big jar, but it was just big enough for my barn to fit in. It was something I had around my house, so that makes it even better. It was free. It was already here. So that is the jar that I'm using for my barn. And it's just the right size. The barn fits in here with the little trees. And what I'm doing here is I'm taking a glue stick. I'm putting a little bit of glue here, and then I'm going to kind of shake it around in some of the snow from the Dollar Tree, so it's got a nice snowed or weathered look appearance once I get it inside my jar. Kind of making like a little, a little shaker or a little snow globe when it's inside my jar here. And I did cut another piece of that vinyl and put it down in the bottom of the jar. You can't see it really good once I get everything in here, but I think it just gives it a nice effect, especially if little kids are looking really close. They'll be able to see it when they're looking inside here. So I'm putting the barn down inside here. I had to put it in sideways, but it fits in here. And then I'm going to put 3 of these trees I found from the Dollar Tree. I'm putting 1 of the small ones and then 2 of the large ones. I wanted the small one to be in the front and then the 2 to be in the back, and I just kind of have to work these around in here. They've got a little wooden piece on the bottom, so just position them how you would want them to look. Then I'm going to sprinkle some of that snow around in the bottom and on the top of the trees. And once I've got everything on the inside like I want it, I'm going to put the lid on, and I have this really cute ribbon from the Dollar Tree. It says Merry Christmas on it. It's got a little farm truck on it. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue and glue this around the rim or around the top lid of the jar. And then I'm going to glue a little bow on the jar. Now this is a quickie here for number 4. This is another ornament from the Dollar Tree. I love the antlers, though, on this little reindeer. I think it's absolutely stunning the way they made these little curly, swirly antlers. So I wanted to use this more of something like a little stand-up piece for home decor instead of an ornament. So the first thing I did there was just sanded some of the glitter off, spray painted it black, and then I spray painted it a hammered silver. I'm going to glue it to some of these little Dollar Tree cubes. I'm going to put one on that right front leg and then one on the back left leg, so that way it will stand on its own. And then I actually, you'll see me kind of make an error here, but I took some sandpaper and I thought, oh, I'm just going to sand off some of that silver so you can see some of the black through there. Well, that didn't work. Don't do that because this is like a little cheap plastic ornament. When you try to sand it to remove just a little bit of that paint, it took it all off. So it went right back to the white. So I'm going to take some black paint and just paint over it with that kind of striped or chunky brush. And I just love the way he looks silver. He doesn't look plastic anymore. I don't think with it having that silver tone, I don't think you'd ever know that he wasn't metal unless you get right up there and grab him. I got a little bit out of the frame here, but I'm just taking a little bit of that black paint again and then painting around him some. Definitely accenting those beautiful little antlers that he has and the little bit of texture that he's got on him. So I have to show you some of these white pine trees that we have. I don't think they have ever put out this many pine cones. The ground is just covered with them. I couldn't believe how many that we have. They're kind of a funny shape though with these pine cones. They're more of a long pine cone, I guess you could describe them as. They're not a real full kind of fat looking pine cone. So I'm just grabbing a lot of these to make these little trees with. I'm trying to get some bigger ones and then definitely get several little small ones or some little tiny ones. And I got way too many because I think I only used like maybe 5 or 6 pine cones to make all 3 of these little trees. I didn't use many at all. It took probably 3 great big ones, and then I took some of the tops off of several of them just to get the little small pine cones to put on the tops of my trees here that I'm going to make. And these really turned out cute. So stay tuned to the end so you can see what these turned out like. I'm taking some floral wire. This was just left over from, it had some flowers or something on it that I had left. So I'm just cutting these apart. I'm going to cut kind of a small, medium, and a large because that's the size trees that I want to make. I'm going to hot glue these right to a little Jenga block. You want to put lots of glue here to hold this in place good. I don't do this right now, but I do come back and do this later on for the largest tree or the tall tree, the one that's the tallest. I am going to use 2 of the Jenga blocks. I felt like the tree got kind of heavy and I wanted to tilt a little bit, so I did put 2 on the bottom of that tree. So I'm going to take the bigger pine cones and definitely right in the center of these pine cones are the bigger pieces, and I'm just popping them out. So this is what I'm going to use around the bottom of my trees, the bigger pieces, and then I'll move on to little smaller pine cones or right around the very top of these to use in the tops of my trees. And I'm just going to take my glue gun, put a little glue here, and start going around the bottom. I think I put about 4 around the bottom, and then just go around and fill in like a Christmas tree would look. And just one piece of advice, you might not want to go get your nails done the day you're going to do this because you'll have some nice exfoliation going on between the sap from the pine cones and then the glue from the glue gun. So you might want to have something on your fingers if you've gotten your nails done recently, or wear your little pair of gloves. You can get those from the Dollar Tree because I got lots of sap on my hands and then lots of glue on my hands when I was making those. But it probably didn't hurt that I just picked these up and started on that night, and then when I let them sit the next day and came back to work on these, it's like all the sap was just like melting off of these. So mine did have a lot of sap. If you have some that may have been sitting from last year or something, those won't be quite as messy, but this is very messy to make, and I'm doing this outside. I do have something down under me, and I'm just building here, just trying to fill in as I go. I noticed when I started out, I kind of wanted these pointing on the bottom of the trees slightly slanting downward. And then after I got a row or 2 around, then I'm trying to have these more pointing outward, more like a tree would look. So they're kind of heavy a little bit, so sometimes you've got to hold them out so they'll stick out a little bit. And here you can see a little bit better. And then I took a little bit medium size. You can see here the different size. And then once I get to the top there, I'm just going to use the little small pieces from the top part of a pine cone. So it'll look like a real tree. You know, it's going to have smaller pieces in the top, and it goes to kind of medium, and then large pieces around the bottom. And these look awesome. I think these turned out gorgeous. I really love the way that they look without any paint on them. But I am going to go back and add a little bit of paint just to make them look a little bit more unique, the way that I had envisioned these to look. So I'm going to use 3 different colors. I have the off-white there that I'm going to use. And then I've got a green, 2 different shades of green paint here that I'm going to use. So the tall tree, I want that one to be more like the classic kind of color of a Christmas tree. And again, I'm using kind of that big chunky brush. They're kind of jagged or kind of uneven, so they work really great to paint this with. There is lots of little strings from the glue that's on here from the glue gun, so you'll see me pulling those out some. So I'm just going to kind of dab this around on the tree and kind of brush in between or kind of sideways to get into the tree. I'm not covering it just solid with paint. I just want a little bit of green or a little bit of accent on each one of the trees. And another great thing about these really didn't cost me anything. I had the Jenga blocks, I had the leftover little floral pieces, and then the pine cones came from my yard, and this was paint that I already had. So I think these look like something you would find at Hobby Lobby. They might even have these at sale at Hobby Lobby, something that looks like this. So I think these look great once they get done. The medium tree, I'm going to paint like an off-white shade. And then the small tree, I'm going to use the celery shade of chalk paint, the Waverly chalk paint. I had kind of a light shade of green. I didn't really want to use chalk paint on these because I wanted them to be a little bit more translucent, but I couldn't find the shade in the lighter green that I wanted to use. So I did use a chalk paint on that last tree, and it turned out great. I don't think it gave it as solid as a coverage, so that was good because I didn't want them to be too solid. I wanted you to still be able to see a lot of the natural shade of the pine cone coming through. And I hope if you're new to my channel, you'll consider subscribing, turn your notifications on, and come back next week if you're liking some of these DIYs. So you'll see the rest that are kind of in this that I bought together, or kind of I had envisioned together to go with these. So there'll be 5 or 6 in my video coming out next week that are kind of going to have this farmhouse kind of natural theme going on with those. definitely check out the playlist and see what everybody else is making. I want to say thanks to Emily and Missy again, and then also check out Sharon's channel. She is the co-host this month, and all of their information is listed down in my description box. And then stay tuned to the end. I've got a final reveal here, and then I also have some pictures of Morrow Mountain if you'd like to see some spectacular fall footage from North Carolina. I've got that on my video, and you can also connect with us through Instagram and Facebook. I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my video today. Thanks again.